Hello Year 10 and welcome to our next lesson, which is on best buys. We're going to start though with the answers to solving problems using a bar model, the work that you did yesterday, so you can mark your work. So problem number 1, Nazim and Abdi share some sweets in the ratio 5:2. If Nazim has 15 sweets, how many sweets did Abdi have? So here I've drawn out the bar model 5:2. Nazim had 15, so these 5 parts here that are Nazim's is representing 15 sweets. I divided by 5 to find one part is 3, and then I know Abdi had 2 parts, so he had 2 lots of 3, which is 6. Next question, Zibun and Tanvir shared some money in the ratio 2:3, so I've got my bar model, 2 parts for Zibun and 3 parts for Tanvir. Tanvir received £12, so 3 parts here for Tanvir, and those are representing £12, and we're asked for how much Zibun got. So 12 divided by 3 is going to give me 1 part, which is 4, and then Zibun got 2 of those, so 2 lots of 4, which is 8. Samia and Ira bought a present for their maths teacher. They paid in the ratio 3:5, so this bar model is representing that ratio. And Ira paid £4 more than Samia, so 3 parts for Samia, 5 for Ira, so 3 of those are the same as Samia. The 2 on the end here are the extra that she paid, so that's the £4 more. That means that 1 part is £2, and so in total then we've got 8 parts, each of which are £2, so the gift cost £16. Tina and Syra counted the number of shoes they owned, and they were in the ratio 5:7, so 5 for Tina, 7 parts for Syra. And Syra owns 6 pairs more than Tina, so she's got 7 parts, and Tina's only got 5, so 2 parts more. So this is representing the 6 more shoes that she's got. And one of those then is 3. 12 parts altogether, each of them 3, so 12 lots of 3, 36 shoes altogether. Right, next then, a box of smartphones, red and silver, in a ratio of 2:7, so 2:7. There are 300 more silver phones than red ones, so 2 parts for the silver is the same as the 2 parts for red. So these 5 on the end here are the extra bits. So those are representing the 300 silver phones. 300 divided by 5 is 60. And then we've got 2 questions for this. One is how many phones are in the crate? Well, there are 9 parts altogether, each of which is 60. So that's 540 phones altogether. And then how many are red? So 2 parts for red, 2 lots of 60, which is 120. Next, Eric and Jack collect football cards, and their football cards are in a ratio of 3:4. If Jack has 14 more than Eric, how many cards does Eric have? So here, 3 parts for Jack is the same as Eric, so it's this extra 1 here that's more, and that's 14. We don't need to divide this time because that is 1 part. So all we need to do is say, well, Eric got 3 of those, so 3 lots of 14 is 42. Next question, the lifespans of Mr. Short and Mr. Long were in a ratio of 3:7, so 3 parts to 7 parts. Mr. Long lived 44 years longer than Mr. Short. So here I've got the 3 parts that Mr. Short also lived. So these 4 are the extra parts, and that's representing the 44 extra years. Divide that by 4, each part is 11. So Mr. Long lived 7 parts, so 7 lots of 11 is 77. Now you'll notice for this last one, I've drawn a slightly different sort of bar model, and this is a comparative bar model, which is a different option you can use, particularly when you're told that somebody or something got more. So Frank, Mary and Seth shared some sweets in the ratio of 4 to 5 to 7. So 4 for Frank, 5 for Mary, 7 for Seth. And this is comparative because I can see that Mary got 1 more part than Frank and Seth got 3 more parts than Frank. So when Seth got 18 more sweets than Frank, I can see that it's these 3 parts here that are going to be more. So those are my 18. and I can divide by 3 to see that then one part is 6. And then all together, I've got 16 parts, 4 plus 5 plus 7, each of which are 6, and that tells me that the total is 96. So this is an option as well for your bar model, but however you drew it, you should have got an answer of 96. So make sure your work is marked. And now we're going to move on to today's work, which is best buys. So this is another type of ratio question that is going to involve a proportional reasoning grid. So we're told milk is sold in 2 sizes of bottle, 4 pints, which cost £1.18, and 6 pints, which cost £1.74. And we're asked to find which bottle of milk is the best value for money. And we've got to show all of our working. So we can't just write down an answer because we are being asked to show all our working. And if we don't do that, we're not going to get the marks. The second thing to remember here is this is not a calculator question. So you're going to be asked to do this using some sort of written working. You can't use a calculator. And there are 2 options here. But either way, we need to find a value that we can compare. So a value for the same amount of milk in each case. So the first one I'm going to go for, I've drawn out my proportional reasoning grids for the 4 pint bottle. And this is a ratio because it's 4 pints to £1.18 and 6 pints to £1.74. And what I'm going to do first of all is look for the highest common factor of 4 and 6. And hopefully it's not too difficult for you to spot that that is going to be 2. So what I'm going to do is find out what the equivalent 2 pints would cost in each case so that I can compare and decide which one's cheaper. But I'm not going to do this on my calculator. I might have to do a bit of bus stop division to work this out. But the first thing to decide is what you're dividing by. So I've got to turn 4 pints into 2 pints. So hopefully you can see I've got to divide by 2, and then I need to do that on both sides of my ratio. So if I divide £1.18 by 2, as it's 2, you might be able to do this in your head. If not, you're going to need to draw up bus stop and divide by hand because this is not a calculator question. So £1.18 divided by 2 is 59 pence. So 6 pints into 2 pints, I'm going to need to divide that by 3, and I'm going to need to do that on the other side of my ratio as well. And this is an example where you might need to set up a bus stop to divide £1.74 by 3. And if you do that, you'll come up with an answer of 58 pence. So now you've got a comparable value. You can say, well, the 6 pint bottle of milk is better value because it's costing me less for every 2 pints than the 4 pint bottle is. It's not much in it, but 6 pints is better value. The other option is to go for the lowest common multiple. So if I think about my multiples of 4 and my multiples of 6, the first one I get to that is in both lists is 12. So this is going to involve me multiplying up instead. And I need to multiply 4 by 3. And so I need to do the same on the other side of my ratio. And again, you might need to do some working out here. You're not going to use a calculator for this question. So if you multiply £1.18 by 3, then you're going to get an answer of £3.54. And for the other ratio, I'm going to need to multiply by 2. And so I might need to do some working again for this. And the answer is going to be £3.48. And so you can see again that the 6 pint bottle is better value because it's costing me less for 12 pints than the 4 pint bottle is. Again, there's not much in it, but this one is definitely better value. So 6 pint bottle is better value. Doesn't matter which method I use, I should come up with the same answer. So for these questions, you need to show your working, and you also need to draw a conclusion. If you don't draw a conclusion, you will lose a mark. Right, one more example then, also about milk. This time milk is sold in 3 sizes of bottle: a 2-pint bottle which costs £1.18, a 3-pint bottle which costs £1.85, and a 5-pint bottle of milk which costs £3. And we're again asked to find the one which is the best value. Now we could do the lowest common multiple here, and if we did this, we would find that 30 is the lowest common multiple. So I would have to have multiplied this one by 15, this one by 10, and this one by 6. And that's going to be, it's going to involve a little bit of working. So there is an alternative, and this alternative is sometimes appropriate to use when it's a non-calculator question, and sometimes it's what you're going to want to do for a calculator question as well. Again, we need a comparable value. And what I wanted to show you was that you can always find the highest common factor in this case because it's going to be 1. So you can always change your ratio to be a unitary method, unitary ratio, so that you know what 1 pint would cost. So that's what we're going to do here. And this is a good technique when it's a calculator question. So for the first ratio, I'm going to divide by 2, and that's going to give me 59 pence. For the second ratio, I'm going to divide by 3, and that's going to give me 58 pence. And for the third ratio, I'm going to divide by 5, and that's going to give me 60 pence. And so I can really easily see that the 3-pint bottle here is the best value. Now this will always work, but if it's a non-calculator question, it might mean that you've got to do some really tricky division when if you look for the highest common factor, then and it's not 1, it might mean that your working is that much easier. So you can always go for the unitary form, and we can conclude here that the 3-pint bottle is the best value. Okay, so you have got here 4 exam questions that are best buys. I've numbered them slightly funny because they're the numbers as they were on the exam paper. Question 6, question 8 and question 10 are all non-calculator. So you should be able to find a way to do this without a calculator. So you're going to want your proportional reasoning grid, please, and I'm going to expect to see those in your working. And you're going to be looking probably easier to find a highest common factor in each of these cases. And in one of them, you're probably going to want to find a unitary ratio to compare. This question over here, this is the calculator question. And again, you're going to want a unitary form here so that you can compare. And that's going to mean that the dividing is so tricky that it becomes a calculator question. So what you're going to need to do is pause the video, please, so that you can do the working in your book and then upload your work onto Teams so that I can see how you've got on. And again, tomorrow, I will go through the answers for this question.